It is time. We are back for Sneaky Hembo time, the Tim Bontemps edition of. The question today is, who is the youngest player to win the NBA's Defensive Player of the Year award? It's been handed out since 1983. Tim Bontemps, you took the time you needed. Answer.
You know, Hembo gave me a nice little shout out before the show saying he gives me a lot of credit, and so he made it pretty high on the handicap scale. I thought about this a lot. And I was trying to think of high school guys who said during the break, guys who came out early.
Yep.
I ultimately landed on a guy who was the #1 pick, and I believe the 2005 NBA draft, might have been 4.
Okay.
Orlando Magic center at the time, Dwight Howard, who won 3 in a row from 2009 to 11. I'm hoping 09 was the first year.
Survey says, hey, we got a winner. Sneaky Hembo goes down going into the weekend. That's right. Headset down, basketball out. Be gone. You got absolutely torched going to the weekend.
And
not only did he get torched, let me just tell you the Bontemps swagger that happened. He came up from the set, he's like, got it.
He then tried to completely freak me out, and it almost worked. I almost changed my.
That's why he's Sneaky Hembo.
There he is.
Very sad. Have you not left the building yet, sir? Down the elevator, out the seaport where it is 10 degrees.
I'm just glad it backed up his hype for me.
There you go. Congratulations, you got the win as we head back to some fun and some fact or fiction. Wendy, I'm going to start with you. Kevin Durant is done winning NBA championships. Fact or fiction?
I got to say fiction, Matt. I don't know where he's playing next year. So I got to give myself the opportunity to see what team he ends up on. I don't think he's winning one this year with the Suns. I think they're in salary cap hell with where they're at with this team and the second apron rules. So I don't think he's winning in Phoenix, but I also think he's going to change teams again. And so let's see who gets him.
Yeah, the Suns couldn't beat the short-handed Spurs. They're awful. Tim McMahon. The Clippers are a sneaky title contender. Fact or fiction?
I'm going to go with fact, fellas. And defense wins championships.
Jeez.
I know that because Nico Harrison told me after the Luka trade. So the Clippers have the #2 defense in the NBA, okay? They have Kawhi Leonard. Now, can Kawhi play a whole playoffs? I don't know, but he's a 2-time Finals MVP. That makes him a sneaky contender.
Tim Bontemps, your turn. The Spurs will be title contenders next season. Fact or fiction?
I mean, Tim McMahon is labeled as a Luka hater, and now he's saying the Clippers are a sneaky title contender. That's just trying to confirm it, I think. But the Spurs will not be a title contender next season. I'm going to say fiction. For as good as Victor Wembanyama is, he's obviously great. This is a team that was unlikely to make the play-in this year. I don't think they're going to get that much better next year. A couple years down the line, different story. Next year, not so much.
The news broke yesterday. Out for the season is Wembanyama because of a blood clot. It came out of nowhere, really a scary situation, but the team believes he will be fine going into next season. So, Windhorst, when you look at Wemby and how ballyhooed he was coming out of France, how would you put into perspective his first year and a half in the NBA?
Well, it's very depressing, Matt, to consider that his second season is over. But when you do take a step back and look at what he's done, you can't be anything but impressed. He has been the defensive force we envisioned from the moment he stepped into the league. And look, a lot of people dispute whether or not he should take as many outside shots as he does. But he has shown that he can stretch the floor and be a force on the interior and the exterior. He is determined to play a certain way offensively that he believes over the long haul is going to lead to the Spurs winning championships. And he has shown repeatedly he can be a difference maker in games. If you're 20, 21 years old and you can be a difference maker at the highest level multiple times, that is the signification that you are headed for greatness, and Victor Wembanyama is.
All right, so Tim Bontemps, when you look at this now for the Spurs, they've got a young nucleus. They made the trade for De'Aaron Fox. This is not going to help them the rest of the season, although they got the win last night. When you look at what this might do for their draft future and adding another piece for Wembanyama, what would you say?
I mean, I would say go back to 1997 when David Robinson spent most of that season sidelined with a back injury, and there just so happened to be a generational player in that draft, Tim Duncan. The Spurs just so happened to win the #1 pick in that draft. They went on to win 4 or 5 championships with Tim Duncan, and those two guys partnered for a couple of them, right? And you've got Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper sitting at the top of this draft, and the Spurs were not going to be a realistic contender to get one of those guys before this happened. Now that Victor's not going to play the rest of the season, They're likely to finish somewhere in the 7, 8, 9 range in the draft lottery. That's a position we've seen Zion Williamson, John Morant, teams jump up from there to get those kind of players. Spurs get that kind of guy to go with Victor and Stephon Castle and the other guys they've got. Going to be a very, very interesting thing going forward.
Tim McMahon, do you agree really with the future of San Antonio that perhaps they are a piece in a loaded draft from putting together another one of those runs we saw to San Antonio?
Yes, but it's not like they get another lottery pick and boom, they're an instant contender. It's going to take time. It's going to take getting their nose blooded a couple times in the playoffs. They made a leap this season to respectability. I think next season they make a leap into the playoffs. They're on the path to contention. Be patient. You might actually have to wait till like Wemby's second contract.
Oh, okay. Well, see, now he went back to being the negative one. Everybody was all on bond temps on that for being the negative. And Wendy, for their draft purposes, I mean, you want to build a team young, and they've certainly got the cornerstone. Do you think they can work their way up into the lottery and find someone that makes a difference?
Yeah, and I want to point out that they also have the Atlanta Hawks pick this year unprotected. Now, the Hawks are on the bubble about whether they make the playoffs or not, but the chances are they're going to have 2 high picks in this draft. And they've done a good job drafting for this team, and they have the ability to use future draft assets and other trades. This De'Aaron Fox trade they made, they didn't give up any of their cornerstone or any of their really developmental players. So they are in position to improve themselves from within and through the draft in the near future.
You know, all the Tim Duncan comparison he made with David Robinson. Could you imagine if Cooper Flag somehow landed at San Antonio?
That'd be pretty incredible.
That would be
He's
amazing.
the perfect partner for Victor, truly.
Anyway, the day before, they were up in Portland last night. James knocks down the 3. Lakers up 5. Then less than a minute later, James buries another 3 from the wing. Lakers up 8. It was just a vintage performance out of LeBron last night. 40 points, 4 assists, 8 rebounds. And the Lakers hang on the road 110-102. So it's the second 40-point game for LeBron since turning 40. That's more than the rest of NBA history combined. Michael Jordan is the only other player to ever score 40 at the age of 40. Overall, it's the 79th 40-point game of his career, tying him with Allen Iverson for 6th most in the NBA. We have 2 Tims and a Wendy now to discuss all things NBA. And Wendy, look, I want to focus on LeBron first based on what we saw last night out of him at the age of 40. What did you put into perspective?
I wasn't even sure he was going to play in this game. He was listed as questionable. He had played heavy minutes the night before in that loss against Charlotte. He played all but 3 minutes in the second half of that game. He's obviously still dealing with a foot issue. They get in the middle of the night. He comes in and shows tremendous energy in this game. Look, you don't have a must-win game in February, but considering they're playing the Nuggets tomorrow night, which is their 3rd game in 4 nights, this was coming off back-to-back losses. This was an important one, and he stepped up and delivered. His numbers since he turned 40, Matt, crazy stats. 26, 9, and 8 on 54% shooting, just as good as you could ever expect from him at this age.
It just keeps getting better, which is scary to say with all the mileage on his body from coming into the NBA as a teenager, Tim Bontemps, and living in the present. And we all want to do that because this Luka LeBron trade was such a stunner. But why is that the wrong way to look at this Lakers roster, particularly those 2 right now?
Because they're not built to win right now. With LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and Austin Reeves, that's not a trio that's going to work in the playoffs, right? All those guys at this point in their career, including LeBron, are negative players on defense, and they all need the ball too much, right? You trade Anthony Davis away, who's an elite defensive center. There's a reason the Lakers went and tried to get Mark Williams, right? Obviously, they rescinded that trade, but they needed a big. They didn't get one at the deadline. Now they're playing, Jackson Hayes and Alex Len. I mean, guys who are on minimum contracts and bounce around the league for a reason. So right now, the Lakers aren't good enough to win a title. But this isn't about winning a title in the next 3 months. This is about having now